ever think about participating in things like Hourly Comics Day or similar events where they invite you to take on a creative challenge to make some comics? It sounds really cool and inviting. And you're excited, but you end up avoiding it entirely. But you still think about it like, gosh, what if I did that? Why didn't I do that? And all that. Well, or you go ahead and jump in. You're like, hey, great, sounds good. But then you get stuck and, it doesn't feel great. Well, it's frustrating, right? Well, we're going to take a worksheet from that me and my students use in the customizing your next creative challenge, and we're going to turn that and focus it on solving some problems with comics. We'll put it to use to puzzle out making a frequent comics making challenge of some sort. And will we go with hourly? Will we go with daily or particular styles and choices? Well, stick with us to find out when I talk about it with Jerzy.
Thank you for downloading and listening to a Lean Into Artcast mini workshop episode, or is it a workshop episode? We're going to do a demonstration of something practical. It is where we explore an art or creative task and demonstrate how we think and work on it. My name is Jerzy Drost. I'm a cartoonist and teaching artist. The other host is named.
Hey, I'm Rob Stenzinger. I'm a UX designer, interactive maker, and a teaching artist as well.
So, yeah, you teased out that, hot on the heels of an episode where I was expressing all of this fear about taking on a certain creative challenge. You're like, Rob shows up. He's like, all right, let's try my worksheet for my workshop, right? So what are we going to be covering?
Well, so let's see. We do this thing in a mini workshop episode, and who knows if it's mini, right? Because a lot of time, anyway, we talk about like why this matters, and we'll do some live demonstration, right? There's a worksheet, and it's real, and we'll get you. You'll have a link. You can download it. You can play along with us, right? You'll have examples, hearing how we think about this through, and like what do we get out of all this, and what do we learn along the way? So that's what this is about.
All right. So, real quick, who needs this and why? I mean, I know why I'm here for this, Rob, but I'm saying like for the general public who just like hit play on the video, who is this for? What we're about to demo?
So creative challenges, making comics, like you're making more work to put into the world, right? So like you could be doing that because maybe you're an art student. You want more publicly shareable things to demonstrate your skill or the things that you care about. Creative challenges that can, be tempting just because it sounds like a fun, playful workout thing, right? Doing something you like to do a lot. But then the product can have a lot of effects. You could be a cartoonist looking to show up with a different kind of work. Right? You're super known for one kind of thing. Maybe you want to do different things. This is a safe experiment to play with. And you get to play along publicly, maybe, if it's a social.
And that's part of the allure of these creative challenges is often a lot of other people are doing it at the same time. And it feels like an event where we're all sharing together. And, like people have talked about certain challenges, like can also elevate you as an artist because everybody's following that hashtag that month, that week, that day. Right. So it's an opportunity to get your stuff seen by more people in a more natural or unexpected way.
Yeah. And right. That's it could be social. It could be private. All sorts of different factors there. Then there's, let's see, I think it could be useful for teaching artists. So let's say you want to make a certain kind of activity you can for making comics. Well, this is a recipe that help you come up with that activity for you or for other people. Another thing that I think is also useful is what if you're going to make a jam comic together as an event, right? Do some kind of collaboration in the, in a context of a creative challenge. So, well, this will help you get everyone, on a shared common ground. So this thing can work for everybody.
Any monsters along the way that we need to watch out for? Any points of friction? Things to be aware of before diving in?
Well, I mean, we'll be using a worksheet, but don't worry, we'll give you a link to that. Mention it. We'll mention it in just a minute here. And then, this is part of a workshop that I do that I'll be also offering as like we can do a one-on-one version of that too. We'll talk about that later. So yeah, you could get all you need out of this episode of the show, or you can always follow up, check out the workshop. But if the payment's a concern, well, here you go. Here's the version that you can have in the show. Then let's see. So what we'll demonstrate in this is a series of sort of thinking, explorational, it's self-interview activities to try to come up with your own recipe in the end of well, what do you think would be that worthwhile creative challenge? And we break it down into smaller concerns. First, we think about fun, and we try to find what's fun for you. We think about where we're going to play, and we think about rules that shape the thing as far as what it feels like for going into it and experiencing it, what kind of things come out of it, the learning, the product output, and the tools, stuff like that. And then now we've done this foundational work, it sets us up to come up with a creative challenge recipe, and that's what we'll be taking on today.
So you're going to help me come up with my own creative challenge recipe to take on. I'm just going to pull up out of a hat, because we talked about last week, hourly comics a day, right? As an example. That's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Help me figure out a way to get more excited about this. All right. So how about we take a break real fast, and then we'll come back and we're going to do all those things that you described. So we need to, this project it takes a lot of work, and, we hope if you get value out of this project that you will help make it more sustainable by supporting us on Patreon. There we go. Patreon.com/LeanIntoArt is the website. What is it? It's a way for you to give us a monthly upvote. If you believe in what we're doing here, and if you get value out of the work that we put together into this Lean Into Art project, you can support us for as little as $1 a month. And I want to thank 5 people who have been supporting us on an ongoing basis. It means a lot to us. Metal Witch Sketchbook Project. Thank you so much for believing in us and what we do. And Sarah Lutfi, thank you, Sarah. It means so much to us. You can find Sarah on Instagram at twisty_tree_studios. Sophie Lawson, thank you, Sophie. You can find Sophie on Twitter at Sophie Lawson Art. Stephen Black, thank you, Stephen. You can find Stephen Black on Black's Sideshow on Twitter. 2 S's in the middle. And Good to Be Curious. Thank you so much. It is Good to Be Curious. You can find Good to Be Curious on Twitter at Good to Be Curious. You can join them all at patreon.com/leanintoart, where you will find all the shows we make, including the extra leans, the shows we record only for people who support us on Patreon. It also gets you access to the Patreon-only section of the Lean Into Art Discord, which you can find at patreon.com, or rather, leanintoart.com/discord. And there you can hang out with fellow leaners and talk about topics we explore on the show in a time-shifted manner where your comments are not attached to a video. And there's even a social channel where you can just share things that are going on in your life. It's at, so once again, the way to get there is patreon.com/leanintoart. Thanks to everybody who supports us there. It means a lot.
Mm-hmm. It really does.
All right. I'm going to play music. So we know. Yes. This is a workshop episode, so that's the official music for when we get to the main part of the show. So, demo time. Let's. How do we get started, Rob?
Well, okay. So first, you're going to want to get your own copy of the worksheets, 4 pages, right? Mm-hmm. And you can get that easily through the link of you ever use Bitly, right? So you go to bit.ly/CYNCCWS. So bit.ly/CYNCCWS. Okay. There you go. So
customizing your next creative challenge worksheet, if you're wondering what those letters all add up to.
That's the code. You know the code. All right. So yeah, you get your copy of this, and you can work digitally. You don't have to print it out on old-fashioned paper. Maybe not everyone has a printer. Who has a printer? But there's apps like Squid, or even other things built into. I know the Mac has an app that's pretty good with PDF and stuff like that built in. Anyway, so you just want to get ready to work with it. Ideally, you're ready to sort of write down words and doodles along the way.
Okay.
they'll get your ideas through the self interview of these set of worksheets. Well, so what do you think? Yeah, I mean, you want to dive in?
All right, are you going to walk me through it? You want to like I'll write on my printout because I have a printer, and we'll go through it together. Or do you want to use your overhead cam? Where do you want to start?
Actually, go for it. I mean, we can. I may be writing along too, and we may hop back and forth as we share what's going on. But I also have ones that have been done already. So the first page is it's called Customizing Your Next Creative Challenge, and it's got that top section of Find Your Fun. And let's take a second to appreciate this. The idea is you probably play games. Do you play any video games, Jerzy?
Occasionally, yes.
Board games? Yeah.
Board games, yes. Okay.
So any kind of game. And if you need, you could think of any experience that you would classify as fun. But this is mostly a game thing. So let's list a few games that come to mind.
All right. I love Mastermind. That's that little code breaking game from, is it Milton Bradley or Parker Brothers? I can't remember. I also like Sorry. That's a fun board game. Let's see, video games. What video games have I played recently? Let's see, Return of Samus.
Yeah, and these can be all time too. It just things that stand out, right?
Oh, things that stand out. Well, gosh.
And it could be so try to come up with a few that at the very least that you really do find fun. If you get 5, that is fantastic.
Golden Axe. Axe 2, actually.
Golden Axe 2. Oh, that's a game.
Yeah, because already I'm thinking of things that you said at the top of this episode, which is like, I know that there's a social component to playing Golden Axe because like my best memories of it are playing it with you.
Oh, that was a lot of fun. I miss arcades. So let's see. What about now? You've got some games that you like. What about a few that were a little bit not so fun, or that just weren't to you? Kind of like, hey, I see you game, and I'm not sure how to like this. I'm not sure how to like you.
All right. What was that Star Wars game I played at your house, Rob, where I was so bad at it? Was it Battlefront?
Yeah, it's Battlefront. The sort of relaunch of Battlefront.
Yeah. I was terrible at it. I died so many times and I couldn't even move. I didn't know what I was doing. So it was just like too hard to play for me.
Classic for me is Demon Souls, but I know that big love for that whole community. So that's what's hard is like, this is not about yucking someone's yum. This is a personal, tuning, right? Everyone is into games. Everyone, young and old, everyone plays games. And it's just a matter of trying to, tune in to the ones that, just noticing the big ones, the waypoints of like, pleasing and even displeasing, because they can teach us something about what we like.
Okay. How about, I'm trying to think of another one that I just did not enjoy. Well, okay.
Dark Escape 4D.
I'm writing that one down. That's the game where I sat inside of this little booth and these zombies jumped out at me, and Rob stood outside of the little game console and listened to me scream and scream and scream. Oh, yeah, I did. I had a bad time playing that game. I admire it conceptually. I think it's a brilliant idea for a game. It was too intense for me. I'll never play VR horror. I bet. I tell you that right now. All right. Oh, speaking of which, Resident Evil. I love that game. Resident Evil 2. Nice. One of my favorite games of all time. Okay. And Mario Kart. All right.
Oh, gosh, I love Mario Kart.
I got a lot in here now. So.
All right. So you have lots of games. So try to alternate between a game you like and a game you don't like, and look at the chart on the right and think about what really got you tuned in. So you think of things that are really engaging, that's going up on the list, and then things that are just not as much for you, right? Or are actively confusing even. That'd go way down as far as up and down, and then left and right would be did it feel natural to get good at it, right? Or is it or is it hard and it still feels good to play or whatever? And so you just easy to hard. However you feel about that. This is just all about just interviewing yourself about feelings about those games.
Okay.
And yeah.
Oh, I forgot another game. What was that one? Blockout.
Oh, classic one. Yeah.
Yeah, I love
3D
that game. 3D Tetris. And I that is one game where I will admit I am really good at it. I'm not good at a lot of games, but I'm great at Blockout. I held the high score at my arcade for like all of high school, and nobody cared. So Blockout goes over here.
Someone's like, he can have that.
Yeah. Everybody else was playing Street Fighter 2. Okay, so Golden Axe 2, I would say, is very engaging but relatively easy.
Mm-hmm.
And now we get to Life. It is not interesting, and it's very easy. And I hate the messaging in that game. Get married, have a couple of kids, be a winner at the game of life. Go to heck. Have a nice day someplace else. Battlefront, I would say, was very difficult. I'd say Battlefront was over here, like way beyond the edge of it for me. Dark Escape 4D, I would say it was hard because it was so... I was definitely engaged, but it was really hard.
Interesting.
Resident Evil 2, I would say was very engaging and relatively... I'd say Resident Evil 2 is right in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Mario Kart is actually pretty hard, but it's very engaging.
That's interesting. I put Mario Kart right in about the same spot too.
Okay, so I've charted out.
Fun. Okay,
I've charted out my things.
Now, okay, so then let's ask why. So why was that fun? Like those different games. So let's think about. Just take a couple notes. What pops to mind about something that stands out as fun to you? And is it some prompts? Could be, is it where it is? Is it the space or the theme? Is it the kinds of choices you get to make? Is it the obstacles or the rewards, the characters? Of course, story. Mm-hmm. So that's so just unpacking why something's fun is an interesting work. Like, so
if I were to say that Mastermind, like that was one of the first games I thought of, and what I love about it is it's the logic of the game. It's the guessing and the reacting to the input from your opponent as they're telling you what colors you got right, what colors you got wrong as you're trying to break the code. So that kind of logical backtracking and being able to take my time to do it. So I'm going to take Miss Pac-Man off of that. I'm going to say like taking time to process.
The Pac people games are always urgent. Ghost will eat you. Interesting. And so like even those two examples you listed so far, you have different kinds of fun, and you almost lumped those two together, right?
I almost did. But then I think more about Miss Pac-Man, I'm thinking like it's the chase. It's that I like to play the turbo one. I really can't play like the regular one anymore. But I love the urgency of the chase, but I also love reacting to the urgency of the chase while forming a strategy on conserving your resources, so that when you get to the levels where the ghosts are like, the power pellet only lasts like 2 seconds long. The power pellets aren't about getting points anymore. It's about just like buying yourself some extra time to clear the board. I had not thought about this before, Rob. I have not thought about this. This is great. Let me think.
So then, and you don't have to go through the whole list too. So, but if you want to do another one or two, that feel free. Looks like what's grabbing your attention here?
Oh, puzzle solving in Resident Evil 2.
Aha.
Puzzle solving, and I would say atmosphere. And I would say this would go for Resident Evil 2 and the Metroid Prime series. Those are the two things I loved about those games. And going back to taking time to process, like having the time to solve the puzzle instead of having to do it very urgently. I think that's what made Battlefront so not fun for me, was the fact that you have to react very, very quickly. And I like to take my time. So there we go. So what next?
Well, so then if you could summarize that in this fill in the blank and just give yourself a broad brush of what, and you can squeeze in plenty of, a couple ideas in each blank, as far as what the fun games have, but what they also don't have, which would be, the things that you would find like in the games that are unappealing to you. Okay. So you, like for me, like I ended up, I put like a lot of times I like games that have discovery, but not excessive difficulty. However, because it doesn't, and this isn't to be prescriptive, like whatever comes out, you're doing some journaling here, right? Yeah. What, okay. So
I've got for me, fun games have time, logic, and strategy, and not speed, reaction, or impulse. And now the next prompt is I often like blank level of difficulty. Looking at this, I would say like I tend to like stuff that falls in the mid range of difficulty. Right
there you go. Yeah, the cluster pattern happening in that chart. Very nice.
But sometimes I like high level of difficulty. Right. There's this cluster forming over here and there. Yeah. I don't like super easy. Yeah.
Sure. Easy and judgy. That's right off.
All right.
Off the menu. All right. So that helped us tune in to finding fun. That was this is let's see. I don't know if it's I mean what you did on your worksheet, that's roughly how they look, If other things come to mind, that is cool, but it's just the I can just hold up to this this quick camera here. I've one of the times where I did this, where I actually wrote out the names of the games. Sometimes I actually will abbreviate the names to try to avoid, yucking someone's yum, right?
Oh, I can see
so
one,
that will, but then it gets confusing because I'm like, which game was that? So, all right, but yeah, so that looked great. How do you feel so far about finding your fun?
That was easier than I thought it was, and yet it was. Well, if I were to put it on that chart. I would say that it falls someplace over here where it wasn't that hard, but it was engaging because I've not sat down to like verbalize why I like what I like in terms of some of these games. I know I've talked to Mean Streak about Metroid Prime. I could talk about that all day, but some of these other games like Mastermind, I don't know. I hadn't thought about why I love that game so much, but I play it every holiday season with my wife. It's like, that's one of the go-to, all right, we're playing Mastermind for an afternoon. So.
Yeah. It's a good game. Okay, so what do you think about now? Let's go on to another element. So we're collecting elements to use in our recipe, and so the next element to collect would be looking at where to play. And that is considering things like think of this as a space, physical, virtual, conceptual, and a little bit starting to think about the social things related. So do you want to play with a crowd or do you want to be solo?
Yeah. So, well, in the case of doing hourly comic day, this would be something where, wait a minute. So when you say crowd size, does this mean like how many people can see it happening or how many people I'm playing with, or crowd size?
Yeah,
what?
it's crowd size can be how, like, do you want to be part of a big event or a small event? Are you starting an event or do you want it to be a big one? Then it's a little bit of social ambition journaling, right? Okay.
So yeah, got big worldwide.
Then so then continue on and just capture your thoughts about location. Like, do you want to play in a particular single social media venue or a bunch of them, or is that going to be, let's see, a physical location, when that's an option.
Right. Yep. Yeah. So if we were doing like, say, like a quick draw event at a 2CAF or something, right? Okay. Now socializing. What do we mean by socializing?
So think a little bit about the kind. Do you want to interactions with others through this? And do you want a lot of it? Do you want a little of it? Do you think it should have a hashtag, that kind of thing? So what makes this work socially for you.
Yeah. So I'd say, yeah, because like I don't want this to take up too much of my extra time for other things. So I'd say medium socializing, just going in and giving the thumbs up on other people's process,
That's a component.
their participation.
Which, as you mentioned, time. I mean, so here you go. What's your availability?
Yeah.
So that's a hard constraint that helps inform.
So for time availability, 15? I'm going to put 15 minutes. That's all I could spare for doing a comic every hour. Already, that's a lot of time. Actually, I'm going to cut that down. I just started doing the math in my head. I'm going to say like 7 minutes. I'm going to try to do each of these challenges in 7 minutes. That's about all I can reasonably budget in a day right now.
Okay. Well, and that's really, really informative. And so some of these will create tensions among themselves. We're not working on solving the tensions yet. We're just getting ideas out. Okay. So what type of art do you want to work with?
I want to make comics, Rob. I don't know if you know this about me, but I love comics a lot. Matter of fact, I'm going to put two gold stars next to comics because that's how much I like them. Okay.
Okay. Anything more specific about it? So any particular kind of comics?
Journal comics.
Okay.
And now I'll put purple because purple's the color of fear next to that. I feel some tension there.
So is your event like and not like other things? Like what could you compare it to? So sometimes when we think of like a new story or an idea or some creative endeavor, it's like, oh, it's like this meets that, or it's a lot like this event, or this movie. Well, so what's your creative challenge you're thinking of, like?
October and 24-hour comic day.
Okay.
Because there's the pressure to do it all day, but then there's like the sharing and the drawing presumably on paper because I have to draw fast and loose. So what's it? I like this prompt. It's not like these challenges. What is it not like?
Exactly. Flip that.
Yeah. Well, it's not like NaNoWriMo because there isn't an implicit suggestion of developing a product through it. And it's not long term, right? It's one day. It's one intense day rather than one intense month. It's not like Art Sound Off.
Mm-hmm.
Because
so it's pretty different in time, but like difficulty, or it's not a competitive event. It's
right. Well, see, NaNoWriMo is usually about like accruing something, right? You're gathering a bunch of stuff through daily effort. This is I haven't considered it yet, but I don't know what the heck I would do with a hourly comic day comic that I wrote, right? Maybe it could wind up being something that has other purpose or utility, but I'm not seeing that off the top of my head. So is that where I capture down here?
Yeah, and so there you go. Like you're unpacking ideas, and it makes sense to get those captured in the notes.
Okay.
While you're doing that, I'll point out a couple examples.
Okay.
Here's a couple times when I've used this worksheet, and I start questioning. Like, this is one where I was thinking about Art Sound Off, and like what's starting to gel for me about the where to play, and the tensions among these different elements of, like, if I care a lot about crowd, but I don't have and socializing, but I don't have time and availability, and all these things sort of play out. And what am I noticing? So that's what the notes are for. And then so this is kind of just what it ends up looking like. Get your ideas into that journal to just sort of help you out with the recipe stage. Whatever is standing out to you right now is worth capturing.
Okay, so I grabbed a couple things, like accruing a thing, sort of like entertaining that thought, and reemphasizing to myself it's one day of effort versus long term, and then exploration of my skill in a hurried, intuitive way. That's something that I'm looking forward to in this thing. So,
which That's pretty cool. All right. Nice qualities to capture. So let's keep capturing. Now let's get specific with rules. So we move in to our final stage of ingredients gathering, and now we think about sort of, three key areas of our rules. First, we think about what do we want to learn.
Okay.
Is there personal development, professional development? What kind of thing are you expecting as an outcome from, to sort of grow?
Audience growth, hoping to get some more followers for the thing to highlight the things that I make, and then new approaches of storytelling, professional development. I want to level up some of my skills as a visual storyteller by working out with a blindfold, right? That's how I think of this, is like I know I have skills, but like let's take away some of my comfort zone to make me have to adapt, and in that adaptation level up my storytelling skills.
That is awesome. So what now you got some rules. What about your what kind of output do you expect? What are you expecting with this? So you can do, like you mentioned, NaNoWriMo. There's an implication that you're getting a lot closer at the end of the month to having a novel written. Not trivial. What do you think? What do you expect to have created from this?
Well, I mean, like if I were to put it very concretely, it would be approximately, let's see, 3 panels at approximately 16 hours. What's 3 times 16? That's 24. What is that? What does that wind up being? 54 panels. Approximately 54 panels of comics. Possible mini comic. I'm going to underline possible twice because I don't know. I'm already nervous about this thing. Like putting the extra emphasis of like having to make a shippable thing out of it. I don't want to burden it with that pressure. So.
Right. And that's what we're trying to do, is figure out the things that are the pressures we want. Inherently, this is a thing you're setting up to be a creative challenge recipe. Pressure was going to be somewhere, but where do you want it to be?
I'll also say like potential blog post. Like collecting all of my panels. So there we go.
Nice. So how do you feel about the output? You got some feeling good about those ideas? And
yeah.
Cool. Because then we move on to tools. What kind of constraints are you going to put around yourself with this? Is this a no holds barred? You grab something in the kitchen and make a comic, or is this like?
Oh, that is interesting. I haven't considered that either. What would I do this on? Do I do this on like random scraps of paper around the house? That would inform some of the constraints I'm working with. Do I work with a bunch of like I just like close my eyes and grab whatever tools are nearby, or do I work with a certain prescribed set of tools? Right. Oh,
analog, digital. Yep.
Well,
all those things.
Is it okay if I go back to like what I liked about games to figure this out?
100%. Yeah.
All right. So think about, I like logic, reacting, and guessing. I like chase, strategy of resources, puzzle solving, and atmosphere. Okay. I'm going to say random grab bag of pens, pencils, and random grab bag of paper.
Ooh. All kinds of. Yeah.
Yeah. So that turns into like this whole idea of like finding strategy in the moment, right? That I know will make it more fun for me, because now it's like, oh, I grabbed a piece of watercolor paper and I grabbed a Bic pen, right? So how will that inform the choices that I make and how I represent this hour of my day?
That's
maybe, yeah. Go ahead.
Very interesting. So, okay. So then let's see. this is when you're thinking of tools, you can think of you can really tune up or tune down the difficulty, grabbing things that are familiar to you, or like you're doing with the random twists, or you can think of like, is it a lot of components to keep track of? And also, this is what you need to be prepared with. Like, this is part of, before you start your challenge, you're going to have all this stuff on hand. So be aware of, like, to set yourself up to succeed with planning ahead for the tools you will need.
Yeah. Because like I also wrote as an option index cards / microns, which means that, okay, I'm going to have approximately 16 index cards set aside and like more than 2 or 3 microns, because I'm probably going to wear 1 or 2 out over the course of the day. That I would say index cards / microns is easy mode. Random grab bag of pens and pencils, random grab bag of paper is like a little bit more expert mode. So
very nice. As food for thought, as a fellow game designer, I would say one of those, like, those options don't have to be fully disconnected. There could be a little randomality that unites the two. So they could be a little deck of, like, shuffle the cards. What do you pick? Or roll a dice, that kind of thing.
That's an interesting idea. Okay.
Yep.
So you promised me a recipe, Rob.
I did, but we ran out of time.
That's just asking you for do this.
I'm joking. You seem really psyched up to keep moving because you've got all these ingredients. What are you going to do with it? Yep.
I feel like we should take a break and then come back and do the recipe. What do you think about that? I
think that sounds excellent. Let's do that.
Okay, so we're going to come back in about like 2 to 3 minutes and talk a little bit about, we're going to actually put all this thinking together into a recipe is literally what we're going to do. Before we do that, we got to thank some other people. Some people make the show possible, and those people are us. We make the show possible. And the thing that I make that I hope you'll check out is Science Comics Rockets Defying Gravity from First Second Books. And it is a comics documentary about the history and science of rockets as told by the animals who participated in rocket history. And you can find it at sciencecomicsrockets.com, where you'll find a link to an 8-page preview. And I mean, it's in bookstores everywhere. If you go to like Bookfinder, IndieBound, I recommend you go to those places first, but you can also go to places like, Amazon and so on. Go to your local library and check it out for free. Science Comics Rockets.
Well, and what I make that I would like you to check out is actually, it's the official paid version of what we're experiencing right now in the show. It's customizing your next creative challenge. And if you've been following along, you know exactly what this is all about. But what I'm doing now is you'll be able to, you can go experience it at Skillshare. You can buy your own digital download copy, watch it at any time, or you can schedule a session with me and we'll do your own customizing your next creative challenge, just like we did, like Jerzy and I did today on the show. So go to robstenzinger.com/store.html and pick your path to customize your next creative challenge.
So yeah, I am getting a lot out of this so far, just in thinking a little bit more thoughtfully about how I think about like what I get out of challenges. I've done a lot of challenges over the years, and I've sort of like intuitively hacked them to make to customize them for myself. But I've never stepped back and thought in a meta sense of like what kinds of gameful events do I find pleasurable, right? So I'm eager to dive. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and tie that in with your goals too. So it's like playfulness and intentionality. Let's do some self-interviewing and let's compose that in a creative way that gets you where you want to be, because it's going to be stressful taking on a creative challenge. Hopefully it's more good stress than negative. So let's jump in.
One of the things that you've solved with this, I think, is when it doesn't go well and you stand back, you're like, I had goals. I figured out how to make this thing manageable. Like, why did I not finish it? Right? Well, maybe there was like an emotional cost that you hadn't counted on in doing this. And so this is helping mitigate the emotional cost of the challenge. That's really great. So
Thanks. I mean, that's the hope, right? And at the very least, the framing of it, and knowing that, you're taking on some risks, and that has some possibilities, that isn't just what an instant path to success. It's hopefully an interesting path to useful experience, and you've made it really relevant and about you by going through this kind of exercise.
That's good. Okay, so you said let's dive in. Let's dive in. I've got the Creative Challenge recipe sheet in front of me, Rob. So
here we go. So building on what you've learned so far, where do like what comes to mind? What stands out as you've considered what's fun? You've considered the event and the space of this thing, like where to play. You've considered the rules, different kinds of rules, and then let's fill in these different blanks.
All right.
To consider this. All right, this challenge is going to be tuned to what difficulty?
I'm going to say medium.
Okay.
Medium difficulty.
And in the notes along the way, like, capture some of the why, as far as like what's going to make it medium, like what's going to make it, because that means it's not going to be just as simple as falling off a log. So that means it's got something to it that makes it challenging a little bit.
Yeah. So for me, it's going to be writing from life, which I don't often do, and journaling in comics. I am great at journaling verbally and in writing, but not in comics form. And then the random tool is going to add a level of difficulty in that, while I'm also trying to deal with the tension of doing these tasks, I'm also have the tension of and make it work with this pen or this paper and so on.
Which has that, as you described, it has this sort of the engaging tactical puzzling to deal with.
Yep.
Paraphrase, but yeah. Oh,
yeah.
And then
I'm just going to use that language.
Line, we have what kind of feel? It should feel like something. So that way, when you're committed to doing it, it's inherently rewarding in some way. Something that you care about experiencing.
I'm solving the puzzle every time. How do I make these pieces work together to tell this part of my day? Yeah.
All right. And you're committing to make what?
Make a comic. Comic panels. I don't know what they're going to be yet. I'm leaving myself that flexibility. The objective is to make comic panels.
Nice. So you got the sequential narrative thing going on, but you don't have you're not assuming like a particular big format structure, etc. Cool. What about the theme?
The theme, I'm going to say journal, daily experience.
Nice. Journal, daily experience. And this is where you could say, oh, and my challenge is all about sci-fi, hypothetically living on asteroids or whatever it is. And so this is a good place to capture that. How many times are you going to be making this thing? Over what kind of session and how many hours? So let's think about time for these next few blanks.
So I imagine if I'm up approximately 16 hours a day, I'm going to say about 16 times I'm going to be doing this, leaving room in there for me to not also be a human being. So I'm not checking like a machine every time. So
would that be a range between something and 16, or is that 16 is the criteria?
16 times once every hour for 16 hours.
Okay. Gotcha.
So I'll put that in the notes over here. Once per hour for 16 hours. Session time of how many hours? Let's type 16 times 7, right? 6 times 7 is what?
3,606. 106 minutes. Yeah.
Okay. So 106 minutes is how many hours? It's like an hour and 46 minutes.
All right.
Approximately 1.5 hours. Half hours total. Okay.
There you go. The days. How many days is this going to take? Done in one day. Sweet. And then of course we've got the rest here. So let's follow along as you get your ideas out for what kind of tools you're going to use. And then there's an extra glitch in the matrix where I put to make again, where it's that's an option. You can use that glitch in the matrix. So go ahead, keep filling in those blanks.
Okay, so using blank creative tools. Like this, is this asking for numerical or just like I'm naming the tools?
Yeah, name your tools. So like in this recipe, like the idea is like, oh, hey, if I would like to make one Jersey style comics creative challenge for journaling comics, I take, a cup of milk and
Gotcha.
3 teaspoons of water and who knows.
Index cards,
Ingredients,
notepads. I'm gonna say I have a collection of children's notepads, like old Rainbow Bright notepads. I have a pad of Kool-Aid Man paper.
Wow, that's awesome.
I save for special occasions, and then say like pencils, brush pens, color pens, like I'm using right now. I love this multi-pen so much, Rob. Okay. To make. So you're asking me, instead of saying comic panels, what else am I making here? Collection.
And it could be, the kind of product. Again, this is the glitch in the matrix line where you could say, I answered that question already. Or you could also get more specific because it's like you're making this element to then compose it into this bigger thing of elements.
Yeah. Or blog post.
Cool. All right.
And learn.
So, yeah.
What do you mean by that, Rob?
This is the blurb summary that can go in a brief description in the recipe of like, okay, by doing this, you're going to learn let's see, rapid journaling, clarifying the this is almost a sequel to the prior episode of Lean Into Art, in a way, navigating the scary parts of, putting feelings into comics. Again, I don't know if, it's my paraphrasing, but just thinking of the past episode.
Well, also, I'm reminded of something I wrote earlier when I was doing this journaling was new approaches of storytelling, professional development. So it's professional development.
Right on. Okay. And that's exactly what these worksheets are for. It's like, okay, this is the refined second draft of the thoughts you captured in the prior parts of the journal. So, all right.
Okay.
Okay. And what about the sharing and, frequency? Are you going to share a lot? You're going to share, constantly? You're going to do it all at once?
So I'm going to say hourly. I'm shipping them as I finish them. Ship.
Nice.
As finished. Okay.
And and then how much socializing are you going to do along the way? That is not zero cost.
I said something about that.
It's as a creative, helping you and I run a creative challenge, and we've both participated in lots of them, and the social dimension can add a lot more meaning and connection and togetherness, but it also is not getting the other aspects of the work done. It takes time. What do you want that to be? Right.
Okay.
So medium amount of socializing. All right. Collaborating. Is this collaboration? You forming a band, doing this solo.
Doing this on my own.
All right.
My name is Lobo. I hunt alone. Okay. So.
Okay. So is there, let's see, do we want to do another break and then sort of, share some thoughts about the experience of this and wrap up?
All right. What's the other break? So we did the Patreon, we did our
we did the
personal
Patreon
work.
already. We did
Yeah.
them both already. You know, recording 2 shows in one day. It's showing on me right now. Oops.
No, it's right. So, but I mean, if we're at a good stopping point to consider something, I'm all for it. Because that was. I mean, you want to talk about engaging? I was thoroughly engaged in like putting all these ideas down so rapidly.
Well, awesome. I think. I mean, what if we just sort of mention that then. Like a prompt for anyone to try clearly. So you go to, bit.ly, go bit.ly/CYNC CCWS, customizing your next creative challenge worksheet. Go ahead and get this and you can play along. Do your own self-interview. You saw how we used this, right? It's nice to have some context for like, how does this work? Also, hey, whole workshop, go ahead and avail yourself of that. It's a paid thing, but it's there for you as well as a supportive mechanism. Then it doesn't take that long to go through all this if you just sort of, but you need to set yourself up with a work session or two. Normally I'm talking a little bit more about Jerzy's reactions to think about what we learned from doing this in a second. But like as a mechanism of doing this, you wouldn't have to do this all in one session. You could do this over a couple of days. But it's good to do the pre-work, thinking through these things in general, and then distilling it down into your recipe as the end. That's a good flow. Then there's one more step that we're leaving out, which is the testing your idea. And then that's when your creative challenge isn't just sort of a hand-wavy thing. Yeah, you were thoughtful. That's super cool. But then did you test those thoughts? That's another piece of the workshop that we're leaving out. So when you actually give it a try, you don't have to go for the whole creative challenge to repeat it or what have you, but do a nibble at it. What would be a piece of it to give you some experience to say, oh, okay, I totally got to fix this part or what have you. That's what, then you refine the recipe and you're set. You're ready to go ahead. But, okay. What do you think about what you learned from this?
I mean, like not to turn this into a full-on infomercial, but like there's a section on the sheet that says what didn't go so well with your challenge, and I don't want to dig into that here. I feel like that's something that like the workshop would be able to elaborate on better, because I think an aspect of this worksheet is asking you to do throughout the whole thing intentional reflection on the way you work, the things you enjoy, what brings you pleasure, what brings you the right amount of difficulty. I had this conversation with my students recently where I talked about how if you get a new game for your Switch, you pop it in and you start it up and it says, guess what, you won. You're not going to play that game ever again, right? Because it's counterintuitive, but what makes them fun is having the right amount of challenge. And defining what the right amount of challenge for you is not the easiest thing in the entire world, right? Because I watched you play Battlefront and I was like, that looks amazing. That is a beautiful game. It's like you're in Star Wars. Holy cow. And then I got there. I was like, oh, I don't know what's happening. I'm upside down. So I feel like being able to carefully describe and then test to see what you were right about and what you were wrong about in your assumptions or your reflections so that you can refine that. I think that reflection part is an important part, like the reflection at the end, like what went well, what didn't go well. And I feel like there's some clues along the way in the way you have this structured where you have like a path to investigation. But I would say like let's not cover that because that's something that's valuable business that's in the workshop that people should go get on Gumroad or Skillshare. Or book a time with Rob because then you'll actually be able to like sit and like work it out with him. But like, what did I learn? You did for journaling and thinking about creative challenges. What I often do with comics is you chunked it out, and so that I didn't have to think about other things in the moment, right? Because like when you say creative challenge, echo, echo, echo. It can mean a lot of things, and it can look like a lot of different things in a lot of different people's heads. I know what I mean when I think about creative challenge. I don't know what you mean, right? So getting granular and saying, okay, like let's not think about what the thing you're going to make right now. Let's just think about what do you find fun and engaging. Okay, you got that work done. Now let's think about what tools you enjoy using. All right, You thought that through. Now you can put that aside, and now you can go to the. It's just the same way I think about making comics, where it's like when I'm thumbnailing, it's like all I'm thinking about is big panel, small panel, close, far away. I'm not thinking about dialogue. I'm not thinking about body language. I'm not thinking about, perfect facial expression or illustration. I'm only concerning myself with this fundamental piece of the overall puzzle, and it will slowly accrue into the form that we finally see. So I feel like this is doing the same thing. That's what I'm getting out of this, is by backing away and saying, like, okay, you want to do hourly comic day. First, tell me what games you like to play. Right? What's that got to do with hourly comic day? Right?
Hey, why'd you turn your chair around and sit down, grabbing the back of it?
I was going to compare it to you putting the helmet over my head with the blast shield on.
Well, I'm in the chair with the holding it, and then I'm watching you, swat a laser bolt.
So yeah, I mean, in like really getting me to stop and say, like, okay, well, when I think of Resident Evil, I think about like the static camera shots and hiding things behind a wall, and that's part of it. But what's, broadly speaking, what do I find compelling about that game? And at the moment I stopped and backed away from that, I said, oh, it's definitely, it's the solving of a mystery. It's the solving of a puzzle, uncovering pieces of things and putting together meaning from logical bits, right? And like in those puzzles, like there's bits that don't seem like they need to be there at all, right? Like finding a key behind a painting or something like that, or like there's like a riddle written on a note behind a painting that you got to like figure out what to do with. It's like that was part of the inspiration for me saying, like, oh, there should be some level of randomness to this. If I had a random grab bag of stuff, that I have to make that work in the moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I mean, it's I love seeing what comes of anyone going through this kind of thought process, because it's really a personal thing to say, this is what I find fun, and how could I use that to inform a creative endeavor? And that's it's going to be a different answer. And so, but at the end, being there for people when they're doing this, it was really fun to see the elements that you brought out. It's always good food for thought. See how people think of their creative challenges.
I have one more thought on this that I'm really surprised by. This was like, I couldn't have planned this, Rob. So you asked me about games I don't like. And I wrote down life, right? And what do I hate about life? I hate that it's prescribing a certain worldview through the game. It's implicitly, more than implicitly, prescribing this is what you do in life, right? To win the game. And that goes back to something fundamental about me, is I don't like prescriptions in my creativity. I don't like telling people how to live their lives. I like holding up suggestions and options and modeling, like the characters that model ideas, but I don't like my characters turning to the camera saying, and that's why you don't do X, Y, or Z, right? I think that's part of the reluctance of me doing a journal comic, is I feel like there's an implicit prescribing of this is the way I live. I chose the right way, right? I wonder if that's part of my reluctance.
Oh, wow.
That's so funny.
Wow. That's like 2 episodes formed 1 episode.
You Voltron'd me.
You hear the puzzling from, you hear last week's puzzle, and yeah. And now this exercise, yeah, you re-engaged with it. That's fascinating. What a cool thing to figure out.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, that was fun, Rob. That was a really, really fun mini workshop. Man, you got to lead this one at festivals when we can actually go to festivals again.
Yeah, sold. Looking forward to seeing people in rooms again and all that. It's yeah. So, this is the hopefully non-timeless part of hearing things that were created during a pandemic. Like, yep. So, aren't we quaint? Hopefully, future folks listening to this.
Oh, I hope so. That is a blessing for the future, for sure. That this is all feels very quaint to people listening years from now. Okay, so any other prompts that you want to throw out for the audience to consider before we close this one up?
Yeah, I mean, thinking of the wondering questions, recommendations, like this creative challenges it's so easy to trigger your ambition and your desire to grow and all that stuff. And not, I'm saying this to me, and if it helps you, that's cool too. But being honest about the constraints and being gentle with the honesty, both, like abundance of honesty and abundance of gentleness to just be open to making the challenge not that challenging, and but make it fun. That's some good tuning and good things to consider, because, the ambitious recipe, may not get you to feel like you've been wanting, you want to feel about the experience. So good to question it with that, the gentle perspective. Yeah. And that's, I think that's my final thought recommendation on that. What's, any other thoughts?
Oh, I think that's great. I think that's a great summary, is like being aware of the fact that like part of what makes it pleasurable is the right amount of challenge. I don't go to video games to feel overwhelmed. Right? I don't want to go to a board game so I can feel like I can't breathe. So there's a certain amount of easiness to it that makes it fun too. So good thing to remember. So thank you, Rob, for this workshop. I really enjoyed it. And if people want to play along, you know where to find us. We record the show weekly, and it gets dropped on Thursdays at leanitoart.com and patreon.com/leanitoart. And we'll see you all next time. Until then, I have been Jerzy Drozd of leanitoart.com and Jerzy Drozd on Instagram.
And I've been Rob Stenzinger of leanitoart.com and Rob Stenzinger places like Instagram.
Okay, bye.
Show notes for this episode can be found at leanintoart.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at the user leanintoart, and you can reach us via email at leanintoart@gmail.com. And remember, leaners aren't wieners. Thanks for listening.